Greetings, strangers, queer and pleasant. I'm not Laura Kate Magnet-Dale.
And I'm not Jane Aerith Magnet-Dale. And welcome to another episode of Queer and Pleasant Strangers. It's a podcast where two queer trans women,
That's us.
we're wifey types, have a bit of a little chinwag, a bit of a natter about media, what we've done in the week, and do silly voices and try and make each other have a little giggle.
Yeah, with gnats and everything.
Nattering with the gnats. How are you doing tonight?
Still trying to fight off that cold.
It's very mean. It should like leave you be.
It should fuck right off.
You've done your time. You've served your time.
I've served my time.
And they should let you off with good behaviour now.
Yeah, good enough behaviour. I should be allowed off with. We've probably played some things.
We probably have played.
Quite a few things.
I've played a few things. Yeah.
Do you want to start with the thing you played?
Sure. I'll start with the one that I was playing like literally minutes before we were recording today. I am playing through Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. I've got the words in the right order this time. The full game is out, the proper game is out. This is another of the Yakuza games in the long series of many serious crime dramas that get very, very silly. This one is one of the shorter ones. It's kind of like a Dragon Gaiden a couple of years ago. It is a real-time brawling one rather than one of the big sprawling JRPG turn-based ones.
Yeah.
We're playing as Majima. You don't really need to know much about him other than that, like, back in the 80s, he decided to pretend to be the Joker because it was easier than dealing with his feelings. And now, in the 2020s, he's got amnesia. He doesn't remember he was in the Yakuza. He stumbled into being a pirate captain. Now he's going to be a pirate. There are people who know him back from his life in Japan who are like, I'm seriously concerned for your health. This is the fact that you cannot remember the last 60 years of your life is concerning. We need to get you to a doctor. We need to, like, check that you don't have serious, like, head trauma. And Majima's response to that is, I'm having fun being a pirate, though, so fuck you, running away. I'm gonna go live as a pirate for a bit.
Also, he's looking good for somebody over 60.
Right? He's doing very well for 60. The number of, like, backflips he does mid-combat, like, he's in good health.
Okay.
So, like, how badly injured could he have been? I don't know what to say about this for people who've played other Yakuza games, other than to say, it sure is another Yakuza game. In all the best ways. Like, I think giving Majima of all characters amnesia is great for making this an entry point to the series, because he is a chaotic...
Yes.
Chaotic question mark. He's chaotic good on the alignment chart, and you strip everything away from him other than, I want to do fun and good but wild and fun things.
Yeah.
Here's an excuse for a silly adventure that's probably going to get serious in a bit. It's a great jumping in point.
Yeah.
I have been having fun with the combat system being not particularly challenging, and that's how I like it. I'm playing on the normal difficulty, and I'm enjoying this basically just being kind of like a Dynasty Warriors, in that it's throwing larger groups of enemies at you than it normally does, but a lot of them will just sort of melt. And sometimes you do group-on-group battles, so you've recruited people, and it's just a skirmish happening everywhere, and you've got a couple of tough enemies thrown in to, like, have a bit more effort with. But largely, there's a big group of enemies. You either take them down yourself, or you have your little pirate crew. So yeah, the thing, because this is a pirate game, you have a pirate ship. I've not done a huge amount with it at this point in the game. The pirate combat is pretty simple. It's very arcadey. It's not overly complex. I do like that.
Are you talking about ship to ship, or when pirates are doing combat?
So, ship to ship first. A lot of the basic combat is ship to ship, very arcadey. You have machine guns out the front of your boat. You have a cannon either side.
Right.
And if you can do boosts and, like, handbrake turn drifts in your like turn of the century 1800s sailboat galleon. Yes. Which makes it easy to, like, turn properly so that you've got your cannon facing the right side. It's silly arcadey fun. And then sometimes you do a boarding party, and this is where, like, most of the game, as I understand it, most of the game's content is sort of built around, is you go onto the other pirate ship and you do, like, a 20 versus 20 battle against your pirate crew versus theirs. But that requires getting your pirate crew. And I'm far enough in now that I'm starting to see how this works, which is every single side quest this game has to offer is basically do a little silly side story and get a new person who will go, yeah, I'll drop my life for a bit and come be a pirate with you. Thank you for sorting my silly interpersonal drama. I'll go sail the high seas with you, strange man.
Ah, the Luffy method.
Yeah, it very much feels One Piece. From the Majima's excitement at learning he's got a bounty and that he's got a little wanted poster to the sort of infectious way he's just picking up people for his crew as he goes. There's archetypes I'm starting to notice already, like we've got the Sanji. I just recruited someone whose whole thing was, I want to find the freshest fish in all the ocean. And because I want to find all the freshest fish in the ocean, I'll join you and I'll be your ship's cook. It's basically Sanji. We're getting some, like, One Piece adjacent archetypes at the very least. Some of the crew members you can pick up are a bit easier. They're just like, you look at the map, it's like, hey, if you've completed this objective, they'll just join your crew anyway. A lot of it is returning characters you'll know if you've played other games in the series.
Okay. Are we going to get the Littles back?
Oh, I've already got one of them on my crew.
Yay!
Patriarch Gondawara is on my crew already. It does seem to just be a silly excuse to be like, you know all those faces you recognize? What if they helped you fight pirates? And I'm having fun with that.
The only other thing I've really heard about this game so far is that they've simplified the Mahjong.
I haven't touched the Mahjong. Look, one of these days I will play a Mahjong in a Yakuza game and I'll discover that they secretly have the best side story plots and I've been missing out, but I haven't touched them yet. Apparently
they've done something to simplify, like, if you've got certain scoring things in your hand, it will highlight them for you, rather than you having to, like, press a button to check them.
Okay, so it's sort of teaching you what to do a little bit more, a little more hand-holdy on learning strategy of it.
I guess so.
Okay. My big takeaways from it so far are this. I did a side quest today, where a man told me he'd invented a helmet that would allow me to hear animals' thoughts and talk to animals. And it was a scam, and he was trying to convince me that our tiny pet tiger, kitty cat, just a regular cat, was romantically interested in Majima. It was a whole thing.
Gora Gora.
Oh no, I'm being flirted at by my baby tiger. How do I process this? There was a musical number on the boat, and it was great. It was like a early 1900s musical number, and it was so weirdly sincere. I've been humming it for days.
Excellent.
And the karaoke tracks. The karaoke tracks are the place where I have, like, maybe the most to say about this game, and it is this. Matt Mercer, D&D person, Critical Role, I believe, voices Majima.
Okay.
And going from the top to the bottom of the initial list of karaoke tracks available for Majima to sing, there's a really strange experience that happens, and I think it's fascinating. Is you start at the top of the list with songs where it is Matt Mercer singing very well but not sounding anything like Majima. And it's weirdly disorienting to see this voice come out of Majima's face. It doesn't look like Majima should be able to produce these sounds.
Right.
And the further you go down this list of karaoke songs, the more it makes the trade-off that I was initially hoping it would, which is like, I would rather you sung a little worse but were more Majima in your sound. And then it goes way further along that scale than I was ready for.
Okay.
I wasn't ready for the depths of, I'm singing this song as if I am a man on the brink of losing my mind that some of those performances get to. It's beautiful, it's fascinating, it's terrifying. I don't understand how this list of songs came out of one person's mouth. It's so bad and I love it. It's so terrifyingly weird and I'm very into it. I love this series, and particularly since the first JRPG one, Like a Dragon, back in 2020, the series has really gripped me. It's really, since they started doing the modern English dubs, I've gotten really into this. And
since you've been able to follow it without...
I mean, look, I've played the earlier ones. It's just a lot more mental effort to be paying attention to.
Yeah,
I
always find that an issue with subs. It's like, I can read the subs or I can look at what's happening on screen. I can't do both.
I can look, a subtitled film that's a couple of hours, that's fine. Like a tens of hours RPG, it's a little heavier. It's a little harder work. them starting to do English dubs again got me in, and I've since realised, this is maybe my favourite game series. I love it. It's very good. So, I'm not a huge amount into this one, but I am loving every minute of it so far.
Excellent.
What about you? What have you been playing?
Well, we've got a Steam Next Fest on at the moment.
We do!
So we've been playing some demos. Some video game
Tell me
demos.
about some of these demos. I might have played a couple of them, mayhaps.
So the first one I played was called Elroy and the Aliens.
Mm-hmm.
This was a sort of Scum-style point-and-click adventure with, like, hand-drawn art about a guy whose dad went missing some years ago. And he is, like a scientist. He's working on a rocket, a prototype for a rocket that can take off from Earth and return and be reused.
Mm-hmm.
A story of our time. And the demo is pretty short. You can probably finish it in about half an hour, 40 minutes. The idea is that your character is trying to get press interest to get some funding for making further versions of this rocket. And it does quite a good job of, like, tutorializing what to do. By, I picked up this fuel can and the nozzle dropped off it. It's teaching you sort of quite intuitively how to use things in your inventory together to, like as you do with your inventory in a lot of adventure games, just put this on that and hope for the best. Has this made a thing? Handy, excellent. Like simple things of going different places and just talking things, putting little hints for what to do in dialogue. Like, at one point you need a source of ignition to light a fire, but you have already spent some time talking to the next door neighbour who is very clearly smoking.
Uh-huh.
So it's like, okay, right. And then at some point she mentions that she lent you a broom some time ago and hasn't had it back. And later on you're like, I need a long pokey thing. Where will I find a long pokey thing? Okay, well, I guess I've got to find the broom that I was lent. Where haven't I been? It's nice looking. Entertainer's got a good sense of humour so far. Idea for an adventure game, and I look forward to playing more of it. But I very much enjoyed the demo, and I believe the final game's coming out in April.
Mm-hmm.
I also had a look at Creepy Red Knock Dinosaur Mansion 3.
Mm-hmm, yes, this is the new game from Xavier Nelson, the developer of such eclectic games as Clickholding.
Yes.
And that one that I played, I forget the name of, about murdering and sacrificing people to stop the end of the world in your basement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a match 3 game with Metroidvania elements, and it's sort of grasping on your Resident Evil time Dino Crisis type vibes.
Yeah.
And also being quite silly in places.
Yeah.
So the idea is you're like a generic hero from a 90s.
Mr. Protagonist.
Mr. Protagonist. Like, his name's JJ, and there is, like, a whole thing at one point we're talking about, like, the fact, like, okay, so what is your first name? Ah, well, the first J, that's a reference to my mum's favourite brother. Okay, cool. And the second J? I don't know. Maybe it's true. Maybe I am a protagonist in the video game. So yeah, there's a little bit of meta comedy there. There's a weird hall of clowns at one point, but all the clowns are like weirdly like cut out and pasted onto the background. One of them even has like repeating text that just says "clown stock" across it. Yeah, there's a lot of weird moments in that game, and just like the match 3 vibes of, it could be anything from I'm actually fighting a dinosaur and that's going to injure me, to I have to match paintbrushes. Nothing bad happens if I don't. I just need to do something with paintbrushes to defeat this painting.
It's very Puzzle Quest with like a bit more silliness and self-awareness to its narrative framework.
Yeah.
It's that kind of adventure.
You're also like building up stats. So like the first time you go through, you're like you've got to get into the mansion. but you can't just get in there. You've got to get through the gate first. Okay, how do you get through the gate? Well, you're going to have to do some match 3 against the gate. And it might cut you if you're not careful. You've got to be really careful getting through there. And eventually you'll, get enough gems that you can just climb over. But when you approach that same area again later, you can, learn to just shoulder barge.
Mm-hmm.
And it's quite interesting as you're, getting these sort of seemingly quite random stats up in the background. Like finding bugs or learning to hack. At one point, you hack the demo. I don't know how much of this is going to be in the final game, but there's some quite difficult fights against a shadow version of yourself, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no idea where that story is going because it seems pretty fucking wild. But I very much enjoyed that, and I do like a match 3.
Yeah,
and especially if they can add something a little extra into it.
Mm.
So yeah, very much enjoyed creepy redneck Dinosaur Mansion 3.
Yes,
I remember the title.
Yeah.
Have you played anything else?
I played through the first half of Lost Records, Bloom and Rage, which is the new game from Don't Nod. They were the original Life is Strange developers. They did Tell Me Why. This is their new choose your own adventure narrative-y thing. But it's got an interesting framing to it. So this is a game that you are going back and forth between 2 time periods. Most of the story takes place in 1995. In one summer where a group of 4 16-year-old queer girls met and became friends and started a little punk band in a garage together, some weird supernatural shit happened that they don't quite remember, but they do remember whatever the fuck happened made them all move away from that town and swear to never come back and never speak to each other again.
And now they're back.
And, well, they're back now because skip forward 27 years, they're adults, they're, I think, 43, and one of them, or their family, I think the mother of one of them, receives a package at her door addressed to Bloom and Rage, the band that these 4 kids made when they were 16, that no one should really know the name of, it's got scribbled on the outside of it, remember the summer of 95, and, the person who gets it is fucking terrified, so she's like, all of you need to come back and we need to open this thing together. And this first half, the other half is coming out in 6 weeks as an update to the game. This first half is largely about piecing back together the memories of what happened that summer and trying to remember what went down that summer through conversations and sort of explorations of the past. And the way that plays out is most of the game is a third-person little adventure game where you are having lots of conversations and doing occasional find the item, use it on the thing puzzles, but largely just soaking in the vibe of that time period as you're going through it and building relationships. You have a VHS camcorder that you're really obsessed with using, and a lot of mechanics revolve around grabbing footage for a memory collage you're gonna put together when you have to move away at the end of the summer and trying to film a music video for your little band and stuff.
Yeah.
And that framing device, that mechanic works really nicely.
Nice.
But the other half of the narrative is obviously in the present day. You are all, now adults talking this through. And the way that gets incorporated is you're being 16-year-olds. You're gonna do some stupid, regrettable shit.
Them's the rules.
Every now and then, you will hear the current day adult versions of themselves commenting on their behavior as teenagers.
Oh no!
You'll hear, because this is all them trying to remember and talk it through, you'll occasionally hear the voiceover of, yeah, no, I was completely lying to you all, I thought, I wanted you to think I was cool. You'll hear the look, I know I shouldn't have, but I was young, I was full of hormones, please forgive me. And it's nice to have this adult, slightly detached by time contextual lens, of awareness of yeah, look, I get it, that was frustrating, I didn't mean it, here's what was going on.
Yeah.
To sort of make some of the teenagerness of it a little less abrasive. in ways that I think works really well.
Also, I think it does some of that, the complicated lives of teenagers,
Yeah.
without having to give you just straight exposition of, I'm going to show you all of the things that made this character, and
Yeah.
we're just going to voice over and go, look, it's because of the thing with my mum, or whatever.
Yeah. It also helps, I think, that, like, it means you can have teenagers be awkward, like, time capsules of the time. Being, like, you can have them say something really awkward where it's like, oh god, that was a thing we said, and, like, no one says that anymore.
Hella.
And, like, you can have a bit of awareness of that.
Yeah.
You can lampshade it, I think is the term. The first 2/3 of it are, like, just good, queer, music-focused, coming-of-age story. The final third is, oh my god, how many of the worst ideas possible in a supernatural setting can you stack on top of each other in a trench coat?
Oops.
Without saying too much, a series of events of escalation happens that begins with, hey, why don't you all step inside this ring of mushrooms with me?
Oh, yeah.
And we all read through these song lyrics that maybe sound like they're an incantation. And that's the start point of the escalation. We ramp up from there. We layer on top of that probably another half a dozen. This is how you get taken away by the fairies. This is
Yes,
how
it
you
is.
invite a ghost to take over your soul. This is how you make a deal with Satan.
Of course. It's what we were all doing as kids. Or maybe
It
it's
is a
just me.
beautiful exploration of, oh god, I don't want to be the wet blanket that says no, but this is a terrible idea playing out. I loved it, and I'm fascinated to see where the second half goes in mid-April, I think it is. Yeah, what about you? What have you been playing?
We played some board games together.
Yeah, we did. Which one's those?
We played a game called Fort,
We did.
which is about kids playing
Little make-believe games.
little make-believe games, and well, they're building forts. They're
building
playing
forts.
together,
Yeah.
and if you have a friend that you haven't really played with today, they're just going to hang out in the yard, and they might wander off.
Yeah, someone else might be like, hey, come play with me, because you didn't play with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that basically explains the whole thing. During the game, you are like going on missions for things like pizza and toys, which are your only resources.
Yeah, they're sort of your currency.
All of the kid cards have different suits on them. Some of them might have multiple suits.
Yep.
Some of them might have a wildcard suit. And you are basically trying to connect enough resources that you can level up your fort. And you will score points for your fort level at the end of the game. You'll score points for any made-up rules you happen to have gathered. You'll score points for the macaroni sculpture, if you manage to get as far as gathering the macaroni sculpture, which basically signals the end of the game.
Yeah, it's sort of a deck builder, but without that sort of permanence, because as you say, any cards you don't use get put in this place that other players can draft from. It is a resource collection game, but with limited slots to collect resources in.
Yeah, because you've only got 4 slots of each type, pizza
Yeah.
or toys. And then there's like a whole extra mechanic of move stuff from your stuff to your backpack, but the amount of space you have in your backpack is quite limited.
Yeah.
And there are yet more moves that can let you steal stuff directly from somebody else's backpack.
Yeah. But the issue is that more like, let's say you need to get a bunch of pizza for trying to upgrade your fort. You've got your 4 slots for pizza available, and you've got a card that's like, hey, for every skateboard you play, you can get a pizza. And you've got like 5 skateboards in your hand. You could play all 5 down, you could tuck the other 4 under the first one, but that would be 5 pizzas. You don't have room in your pack for 5 pizzas. You'd have to play one fewer card. Because each of these cards has 2 actions on it, and at least one of them you have to do the complete action. You have to take the full amount of whatever it is you are entitled to.
Yeah, so if there is anything that would cause you to try and gain more stuff than you have room for, you cannot fully complete that
Yeah.
So if that's the only action on that card, you won't be able to use it.
Yeah, but if as most of them have 2 actions, if you can do one of them completely, you can partially do the other.
Yeah.
But there's also the thing to think about is that each of those cards, generally speaking, has a public action and a private action. And the private one, only you, the card player, can use. But the public one, the other players at the table, if they've got a matching suit, can also do. So, on other people's turns, you might be able to take advantage and get some little bonus for yourself based on what other people chose to do, which is a nice mechanic.
Yeah. It's a nice little, sweet, really easy to teach, small box game by Lady Games. You can tell it's not one of Cole Worley's designs, because it's the manual is way kinder to read. But it is still Carl Ferrin's art, so it's got that very distinct Leader Games art style that I think is absolutely adorable. And we played the base game. We also played with the Cats and Dogs expansions. Mm-hmm. It's one box expansion and 2 sort of Cats or Dogs modules, which were quite nice. The cats have individual requirements, and they'll come and stay with you until somebody else meets those requirements. And sometimes they'll give you points, sometimes they'll make it harder for you to do stuff. And the dogs are... You'll basically get a whole bunch of points at the end of the game for having the most dogs in your doghouse. But apart from that, you can also use them for their suits, so you can use them to play other cards. And interestingly, if they're in your yard at the end of... or at the start of your next turn, instead of going to your discard pile like the kids do, they go to your opponent's discard pile, meaning that the dogs are constantly just wandering around and around and around, assuming they're not being used for their suit. But yeah, I like it's. They were both really easy to learn. Like, I think the manual for those 2 is like a 4-page tiny pamphlet about the size of one of the cards. But yeah, nice, easy to learn game. Nice components. I loved how thick the dual layer board is.
Oh yeah.
The cards are slightly plasticky, so it doesn't feel like you'd necessarily need to sleeve them or worry too much if they got damp. I feel like they could probably take a splash. Probably not a full soaking, but I feel like a splash they'd probably still be okay. Which I appreciate in a board game, because a lot of these games are very expensive, and I don't want components that are just gonna fall apart almost immediately.
Exactly.
But yeah, very much enjoyed it. Well done to the people who advertised that to me. I'll explain that later.
Yeah.
What about you? Have you played anything else?
Other than that, I've been playing the update to Hades 2 that happened, which I started playing, and then things got controversial, and then more things came out, and I'm like, as best I can tell, everything's fine, I think. I don't know.
At this point, it seems fine.
At the current moment, it seems like things are fine with that game, so I will talk about it at present.
Yes.
Hades 2. That game's been in early access for a while. It's Greek gods-themed top-down roguelike. The most recent update has added the final boss of one of the routes through the game, and added in another one of the gods that can give you boons as power-ups throughout the run. It is Ares, the god of war, and
I thought Kratos was the god of war.
But it's been nice to have another boon in the pool of boons. I keep thinking about how I feel about Hades 2 compared to the first Hades. It is undoubtedly a better game in terms of content density and the amount of stuff there is to be experienced. And I am having such a great time with it, and I will play more of Hades 2 than I did of Hades 1. And this is such a personal, it's not that the game is bad, it is just my tastes. I still really miss 2 things from my Hades. In Hades 1, I always used to go, Dionysus, give me poison on my weapons, and Athena, give me deflect on my dashes. And both of those characters, I think because those boons were a bit overpowered in the first Hades, those are no longer gods that you can just casually meet and build your run around in Hades 2. You might, if you're lucky, encounter them once per run and get 1 boon from them, but you can't go, I'm going to use that character's item and have them be my starting item and my starting boon and build my build around them the whole time. And I'm like, I liked playing. And like fire damage is almost getting the same thing as the poison damage did for me, but I liked being able to be recklessly aggressive by like dash attack, and be constantly dashing, and that giving me a little invulnerability.
Yeah.
And I am loving Hades too, but I'm having to play it more defensively, and I'm like, I had a little more fun when I was allowed to be reckless. And
who knows what will happen by the end?
We'll see. It's Hades 2 is objectively a better game. I liked my little reckless dash dodge though. Give me back my dash dodge. I know my dash dodge. We'll see by the time it hits 1.0. But I am consistently really impressed by like the ambitious scale of some of the fights they've been adding over time. The newly added, if you're trying to make your way up toward Olympus, end of that route boss, is not to quite the same scale, but it reminded me of encountering the Flowey fight in Undertale, where suddenly, like, oh, this sort of broke my brain's conception of what the scale of a fight in this game could be, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I want to know where the plot's going. Give me 1.0 so I can see the plot reach its sort of finale, but until then, I'm having a lot of fun doing runs in that.
Yeah.
What about you? What you been playing?
We played another board game. We played through a box set from season 3 of Final Girl.
Yeah,
we played Hell to Pay.
Yes, this is the single player, but we play it co-op. Be a Final Girl in a horror movie. Sort of deck buildery game.
Yeah, so the makers describe it as solo plus. It's designed specifically to be played solo, but you can, if you're willing to like do it as a collaborative thing, play it together. And that's how we have played it together for a while now.
Yeah.
So previously we talked about this as like, it's a really interesting idea of you buy like a core box which just has all the components you need to play any of the feature films, and a feature film which will include a killer and a location. And all of the killers are based on like a legally distinct version of a horror movie villain. So we've had like Freddy Krueger, a Jason Voorhees. We've had we've had ghosts. We've had home invaders. We've had all sorts so far. But this box set was called Hell to Pay. It includes the character, the killer Razorface, who is very definitely the Hell Priest from the Hellraiser franchise, Pinhead. And the location is called the Hellscape. And it does some interesting things that do kind of fit with Hellraiser 2, that sort of changing landscape. But also, it's very much Cube.
It reminded me much more of the movie Cube, with the rooms shifting positions. Yeah.
So you have 5 fixed locations on the map, and then 4 locations that will move around. That comes with 2d8 that you will roll, and if the symbols match, you just flip that one tile over. If the symbols don't match, you you switch the position of those 2 locations. Which we didn't have too much trouble with. I was worried that there was going to be a risk of things like being in the wrong place at the wrong time. There were a couple of times when we couldn't quite get where we needed to go, but only briefly.
Yes.
Because there's only 2 exits to each of the individual like moving pieces, and there's usually 3 places that could be got to. So potentially if it's pointing, one of the X's is pointing straight at a wall, you're not going to be able to move that way. And it did lock off a couple of things a few times, but not to the point where we like really struggled with it. It was like easy to manage. When the tiles flip, the rooms were color coded, so you just move everything that was in like the black room into the black on the opposite side and the red room on the opposite side. Razorface was really interesting. Like, there was a whole concept of, you have these atonements going on, and you can't defeat the, like, last bit of damage off of the boss without, getting all of those things clear. So it was like, permanently discard a card from your starting free hand. Save a certain number of people on a turn. And we were finding like terror cards were like adding more afflictions. It's like, we need to get rid of these. This is not great. It was great in combination of the two. But we also played with one of the other new features from Season 3. We played with the Tears dice.
Yeah, which is basically a slight difficulty modifier.
Yeah, it's a modifier to the dice themselves. Like, Van Ryder have made no, hiding of the fact that, like, they say that the whole game is powered by tears.
Yeah.
And any game where you roll dice you can feel like you're having a bad time if you just roll terribly.
Yes.
And this does, I think, a really good job of sort of mitigating that. Like, I wouldn't necessarily play it all the time, but it does feel like I would probably have a much better time playing Geppetto at the Carnival, which is from Season 1, I think. Like, because it has minions, because it has traps, that particular mission can go so sideways in, like, 2 turns.
Yes.
And it doesn't always necessarily feel good. When it goes well, I've had that game, like, that mission go really, really amazingly well. But more often than not, I've had too many traps come out, become completely impossible to move around, and no way to, like, get anything I need in order to actually do any damage to the killer. So, the Tears dice, because you're using these big old chunky D6s, the Tears dice replace the 1 and the 2, which were complete misses in the base game.
Yeah.
With, they have a symbol of a tear. Whenever you resolve a dice roll that has a tear in it, you get a tear token to add to your board. You can have up to 5 tear tokens.
Yeah.
And each of them will give you a different reward. There's 2 sides to the tier board as well. So you can, before you start, you can either decide or just pick at random. And you'll have things like, 1 tier give you some extra time. 4 tiers, like, reduce the fear level, so you potentially got more dice coming in. Or, like, even being able to, like, re-roll things, which was really convenient a few times.
It's basically have you had some really shit luck where just, like, you rolled dice and got not even, like, a mitigatable failure out of it. Here's something to, like, try and get you back into the game a little, to make up for the terrible time you had.
Yeah, and I also like that you only get the tiers on things that you actually, like, you proceed with. So anytime you, like, re-roll stuff, you're not going to be getting the tiers from that.
Yeah.
You're going to have had to do your best to just go, I am going to accept some bad things.
Yeah.
And hopefully that will pay off later. So, yeah, it does slightly change how you play, and I think it does, or certainly did for us, drastically change the difficulty.
It definitely saved our ass.
Oh, yeah, 100% saved our ass. But, yeah, things did get pretty hairy a few times towards the end.
I mean, even with that in place, we were still, like, we were dealing that final bit of damage to the enemy and going, we have to hope that it's blank on the other side of this, because if it has any more health, we're fucked. Like, if it has a single health point on the other side of this, we are done.
Yeah, because it was getting to a point where it was attacking us twice on its turn.
Yeah.
Which meant that even if we picked up, like, all of the things that we could, like, defend ourselves with on our turn, we had to get successes, at least 2 successes allowing us to block the damage, and we had to immediately rebuy those things on the next turn. So, yeah, I had a really good time with it. I think that was the feature film I was most excited for from Season 3. I am still excited about the others, but I am glad that the one that I've been most hyped for was as good as I expected, and yeah, I think the tier dice were fun to play with. As I say, I don't know if I would do the same for all of them. I will report back in future episodes when I have played through the rest of it. There are 4 other feature films to talk about, and a bunch of new characters and new shit. Like, there's 2 new characters that just completely change your starter deck, which I think are going to be fun to try. We've got Caroline with her psychic powers, which is a returning character from a previous feature film, but now, instead of being the helpless child that needs rescuing, she's the teenager with psychic powers who's gone back to seek revenge. And you've also got Grandma, who is a reference to Grandma from Little Red Riding Hood in the Storybook Woods mission from Season 2. She has very slow walking speed, but she is able to have the nearby victims help her by leaping in front of danger, which seems like it could be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's more of Final Girl Season 3. Have you played anything else?
I think that's most of it for me, really. You?
I played one other thing, and not very much, so I'm going to be very quick. I started playing Lorelei and the Laser Eyes.
Yeah, you did.
I did. It's an interesting game so far. It's been described to me as like a survival horror with none of the combat. All the puzzles, none of the combat. Which is, I guess, kind of similar to... Tazara's Key. The Tazara's Key, which I played relatively recently. It's got less of that PS1 aesthetic. In fact, it kind of reminds me of Danganronpa because there keeps being what I assume is supposed to be blood, but it's slightly pinkish. It's got a weird kind of noir vibe. Sometimes things look pixely. Sometimes things look like they've got like a black and white film being projected onto them from some other location. It's a fascinating art style. Sometimes like doorways and stuff are just like abstract. Like there is an exit over here, and sometimes like it's very definitely like that is a door. That is a thing that's happening.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of the like it tells you quite early on. This is a game that is meant to be played with a notepad and pen. You are going to need to make notes of things. You're you're going to be solving a lot of puzzles. Here are some things you need to know, and should have like a grip on. Although I have managed to get to the library now and found references to like explanations for all of those things. Like it told you quite early on, you need to know like Roman numerals. You need to know you probably need a calculator. And it's like there is a calculator app in an item that you can pick up quite early on. There is in the library. There's like a breakdown of like the important Roman numerals. There's a book of just puzzles. I couldn't find if there was anything in that was supposed to be a hint to other puzzles in the game, but seemingly there's just a book of puzzles within the game that is all puzzles. So that's been fun. There's just some. Like mathsy puzzles, like the you get in a lot of games that you've got to turn the power on, but you've got to flick all of these switches, and the numbers all have to add up to this amount. I've found one of those quite early on. It's my main problem with the game at the moment is it's a bit of a nightmare to navigate. Like there are so many different rooms that I've already encountered. Most of them have, like, at least one locked door. Several of them have items that I don't really know what I'm doing with. It's... I keep thinking I've been somewhere already, and either not being able to get back to that place, or finding somewhere completely different when I think I'm going back to the same place, and realising, oh shit, the map's even bigger than I fucking thought. What? Like, literally just before we sat down for dinner tonight, I'd gotten to a point where I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if I should have answers, because it also explains that you might encounter puzzles that you don't have the answers for yet. It's like, I don't know if I should have the answer to this puzzle yet or not, but I feel like I am starting to run out of things to do. And as that happened, I encountered another character. Who's just opened another door. It's like, well, I guess there's even more places to go now. So there's that too. But like navigation's been a bit difficult, and at least one of the puzzles hasn't sort of super explained itself terribly well. So I was going in and out of this thing going, like, I think I know what I need to do. I think I need to rearrange these strips of paper, but I don't understand what the mechanic is for that, because every time I try and click on a piece of paper, it just takes me out of the puzzle. Did eventually work that one out on my own, but like I do wish that there had been like a little bit more explanation on this thing, and I don't think it helps that there's already like this underlying plot about the best like puzzle and mystery club in the entire world operates out of this hotel. But here's the first puzzle. Can you find your way to get to the puzzle club? Mystery.
Yeah.
Oh, it's interesting. I'm curious where the fuck it is going, where is it going to go, and how long before I will get completely frustrated with the puzzle.
I mean, that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah. Right now, I feel like I've got somewhere in the region of like 10 different combination locks. And I don't know if I've got everything I need to even start working on those combination locks. Possibly more, possibly 15. Many locks.
Yeah.
And hopefully that will become somewhat clearer. What about you? Played anything else?
That's about it for me.
Well then,
Time for this.
do you struggle with social encounters?
Yeah.
Unsure if you've met that person before?
Mm-hmm.
Have been warmly greeted by someone that you absolutely do not remember anything about?
Uh-huh.
Then try these cognitive accessibility glasses. It'll prompt you on whether or not you've met, what their name is, and did you remember to politely ask them the question back.
Thanks.
Cognitive accessibility access specs. Try them today. Hey Laura,
Yes?
we've got a new sponsor.
Who's our new sponsor?
Well, do you sometimes in the world go, oh, that's a cute mug?
Quite a lot.
I like the words on this mug.
Yeah,
I
it's
like
a nice mug.
the design on this mug.
That's very cute.
Do you then go, oh, but we just don't have space?
Oh, I really can't justify it.
We don't have space.
I don't need more mugs. I wanted to just...
I mean, our mugs are stacked on top of each other in the mug cupboard.
I want to justify to myself that, like, it's okay to buy it because it's practical, but it's not practical if I can't put it anywhere.
And we have a small mug tree separate from that.
Right? But, like, where am I even going to put another mug at this point?
Exactly. Well, fear not. This week's sponsor is the non-Euclidean mug rack.
Oh, tell me more.
Never again will you see a cute mug, but have to not buy it because you've run out of cupboard space. There's seemingly no end to the mugs. Put it on the left of the left of that one, of the left of the left of that one, of the left of the left of the left of that left of that one.
Surely that has doubled back on itself by now. Nope, it's just going left further.
No, you'll have to turn the mug rack round several times before you can even see the end of the mug rack.
Oh, goodness, it just goes and goes
Exactly.
and goes.
You'll need to make at least 7 turns before you get back to the start.
My brain does not know how to process where my mugs have gone.
Try not to think about it, but all the mugs are there. Just remember to keep turning until you find what you've lost. That's the non-Euclidean mugrack.lol.net. Enter the code Q&PS INFINIMUG, and you too could get 15% off your first non-Euclidean mug rack and your first 15 mugs. So, what have you put in your eyes?
I watched a film that was more interesting than I expected it to be, despite it being, clearly children's propaganda.
Uh-huh.
I watched the animated movie Dogman.
Well, I'm glad it wasn't Paw Patrol, but yeah.
I mean, it is a film based on a book that's from the Captain Underpants creator, to my understanding,
Right.
where there is a man who is a terrible, incompetent police officer,
Right.
and his dog, very smart but lacks a human body with which to solve crimes. Like the human police officer, fucking idiot, but he does have a body that can do martial arts.
Right.
And dog, very smart. It's a dog.
Together, they're almost a functional person.
Exactly. They get in. An incident occurs, and the man's head is useless and the dog's body is useless, but what if we put the dog's head on the man's body? Now that's a dog that can do kung fu and fight crimes.
Uh-huh.
Now it's Dogman. In theory, this film is like a very traditional superhero structure film about like going after the big bad supervillain that's trying to take over the city or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Fundamentally, that's not what this film is.
Right.
This film is part queer enemies to lovers romance.
Excellent.
Like, maybe not textually, but like flavor-wise, that is what it is. I don't feel bad mild spoilers for the movie Dogman. I can't imagine anyone here's going to stress about that too much. This movie ends with the villain and the hero raising a child together. And if that's not enemies to lovers, queer romance, I don't know what is. They might not kiss, but it's clear that this is the genre it's in. Also, it's another in that genre that has become increasingly common the last, half decade of children's film about trying to break the cycle of generational trauma. Which, popular genre.
Mm-hmm.
I will note, it's most commonly a genre we see with, female characters. It's not so often we see breaking the generational trauma cycle amongst along a line of male characters.
True.
And I think there is some benefit to that. The gist of what's going on in this film is the villain, I forget his name, he's a cat, I'm going to call him Evil Cat. Evil Cat creates a clone of himself to help with his evil deeds. Oh no, I accidentally set it to create a basically child version of me clone.
Uh-huh.
Oh no, that clone of me hasn't yet gone through all of the terrible soul-destroying events that I went through that turned me into the evil person I am today.
Mm-hmm.
What if I'll just put him through all the stuff I went through and he'll turn out evil and he can help me with my evil crimes. Oh no, not only am I struggling emotionally to commit the harms that were committed upon me on someone else, it's not as easy as I assumed it would be to just be the monster that I was subject to. But also, even when I try to do that, this innocent child is being forgiving of my behavior, and I am seeing in myself, oh god, how long was I forgiving of terrible behavior that really could have just stopped if someone had a heart and saw that I was hurting. And it's an interesting story about someone trying to recreate the scenario of their own turning out terrible, and then going, maybe I didn't need to turn out this way, maybe I could have kept choosing to be good in spite of what I went through. Without spoiling too much of how it plays out, there is a really, really, really well-written moment of this child almost having that turn of evil, and the thing that almost breaks them, that almost sets them to be evil, is, genuinely heartbreaking.
I remember you telling me, I was like, oh no!
Right? It's about it's about the worst thing I could see, where it's oh, that's such a direct, to-the-soul heartbreak.
It's the kind of pain you can only get from a really fucked up interaction with a family member.
Yeah, and specifically the exploration of oh no, I was trying to turn you evil, but now I'm seeing you have your broken moment. How do I respond to this? Genuinely a really engaging story. I'm very impressed with how this film handled humanizing the kind of things that can lead a person to the kind of nihilistic view that might lead them to do bad things. The acknowledgement of the fact that sometimes people's crimes are a product of their circumstances. And also, look, as much as I got the joke out the start that this is propaganda, and it is a bit, it does acknowledge that the best outcome for a criminal would ideally be rehabilitation rather than just locking up and being no, you must arbitrarily be punished because crime. That sometimes having a productive member of society in society is a better outcome.
Yeah.
Which is better than I can say for a lot of kids' propaganda.
True.
It's also just a very silly, goofy film. It operates on playground game logic.
Excellent.
Of course that's how it works. Now you've explained it, of course that's how it works.
The life gas.
Yeah, there's this MacGuffin that is the gas that makes inanimate things alive, and it's very obvious what it's being set up to do, and then it's paid off in a very unexpected way. It's very, of course, the gas that brings inanimate things to life would do that. Of course it would. I had a way better time with this than I expected to.
Excellent.
It was a surprisingly fun time of a stupid, goofy little movie.
Yay!
What about you? What have you put in your eyes this week?
Well, when Final Girl Season 3 turned up, I realised that one of the locations is based on Perfection from the movie Tremors. A film I have never seen, Like, I know of it. I know of the Graboids.
Yeah.
I know Kevin Bacon's in it. I had never seen it before.
Mm-hmm.
So I dug it out and I watched Tremors, and yeah, it's alright. It's a creature feature. It's
a creature feature featuring the creature.
Yeah, and it's, to be fair, it's like a really interesting creature design. Like the way, like, initially you're just seeing like the little snaky bits, and it just turns out like, no, these things have like a bunch of little tongues that are like mini versions of itself almost. I was kind of wondering if it was going to turn out that they in were also like mini versions of the much bigger, like an even bigger version of a Graboid. Yeah, like it doesn't feel like some horror movies of the like 70s and 80s, of the 80s and 90s that were like trying to make a point about anything, or like were setting up sort of rules for horror. In this case, it was, if you make it a vibrate, then the Graboids will try and get you, and that's it. And or they're quite clever. They're not stupid. They will try and set up traps and you know, try and work around you and shit. And they don't necessarily get tired of just waiting around to like fuck you over. They'll find a way. Yeah, and then it's just like lots of silliness, and like it doesn't even do over the top gore like a lot of horrors of the age. But yeah, it's all right. I'm glad I have seen one more in that genre of horror films that like a lot of people talk about, but I don't think I've ever seen. I think Phantasm's my next one.
Yeah.
People will probably be surprised to hear I've never seen Phantasm. Yeah, that's Tremors. It's a creature feature in a desert. What if you couldn't get off the rocks?
Yeah.
It is exactly what the concept of that film was. What if I couldn't get off this rock? Okay, dude, you sure did make that film.
They sure did.
They sure did. What about you? Have you watched anything else?
We watched a thing together.
We did.
We went and saw on the big screen Eraserhead.
We did.
This is a movie by David Lynch of Twin Peaks fame.
Yes.
And it is a fascinating film that I am glad I gave my full undivided attention on a big screen.
Yeah, it's one of those films, and Lynch just generally as a director, like, gets like pulled up by fucking stoners, let's be honest. And they're like, oh man, you gotta watch this film, we'll get really baked and we'll
it's
watch
this weird thing that my art school friend saw. It's weird.
Yeah,
It's
like,
so weird.
And it is usually like the stoned friends who have one person who went to like art school or film school or like media studies college, and that is like, yeah, it was fucking weird. Okay.
It is, I think, more straightforward than people give it credit for in what it's going for, in some ways. I do think
there is certainly a reading for it that we both took from it.
Yeah, no, I've been discussing this with other Lynch people for a David Lynch-related project, and when I brought the reading up, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, like 4 of them went, yeah, no, that was my read on it too, don't worry. But yes, it is a film that requires some faith from the audience. Yes. It requires the audience to trust it's going somewhere. Mm-hmm. Like, the thought I had initially when watching it was like, oh wow, Twin Peaks by comparison is such an easy recommend.
Yes.
It's such a straightforward, follows the rules of how you make films recommend when compared to something like Eraserhead.
Well, I think the point there is that Twin Peaks is very specifically designed for television.
Yes.
And I think with that in mind, it does manage to be a bit more digestible.
Yes. Eraserhead is made for, you sit down in a theatre, and if this was on TV, you might channel hop away, but because you're in the cinema, you'll stick with me for a minute until I get where I'm going.
And I think the other thing with this is, like, I remember, like, I can't remember the exact quote, but I do remember, like, Lynch being interviewed talking about, like, to watch his movies, you have to watch them in a cinema. You have to watch them on a big screen where, like, it's filling up your whole vision and the lights are down and you're not focused on anything else and there's nothing else happening in the background.
Look.
And I'll be honest, I almost certainly watched this in the background while playing video games.
Look, as much as I think that's a pretty pretentious thing for him to have said, watching this on a big screen, I did go, yeah, no, I'm getting way more out of this experience than I've previously done when this film has been on.
Agreed, and I think it does some things that like I wouldn't have even thought about at home.
Yeah,
like there were a couple of moments where it was painfully bright.
Yes,
where like I was like almost covering my eyes because it had been such a darkly shot film, like just so little like coming into your eyes for like long periods of time, and then just complete screen filling whiteness, just like
yeah,
or sound that just gets painfully loud.
Yes, because this is where I'm going to get to my read of this film, which is, look, I don't think this explains 100% of every metaphor in this film, or at least if it does, I've not given it enough time to get there. But I think that, like, the reading that was in my head during this viewing was, this sure is a very accurate film about two autistic adults with sensory oversensitivity, struggling with the sensory reality of raising a baby.
A premature baby.
A premature baby who has, as a result, does not look like the other babies around and has unique needs that, like, you probably wouldn't get from, like, asking fellow parents, like, what does this mean? I don't know, your baby's different. It is, I don't know how to deal with humans at the best of times, and this is a human that's even more indecipherable.
Indeed.
And I find sensory stuff hard to deal with at the best of times, and this is, through no fault of its own, a creature that is a sensory nightmare. And I think a lot of the film makes a lot of sense through that lens.
Yeah, I am sure there are new parents who would absolutely relate to, like, a lot of the sensory stuff around that child.
Yeah. The thing about, like, watching this through the lens of it being a film about two autistic adults is very much that, like, the opening scene in the family's house near the start, where they're having the dinner, it so well captures, I am awkward in a space where I'm not speaking the same language as the people around me, and I don't understand the subtext of what I'm supposed to be picking up. So much of the film does a great job of, what is that sound or light source that is overwhelming, that other people wouldn't pick up on, but it's all that permeates the soundscape. Like, the first time we're in the main character's apartment, and there's that whistling, and it's there for minutes, and it's the slight whistle of the radiator. And it's like, that is such an autism thing. I can't detune, I can't phase out the fact that the radiator's whistling. The flicker, the visual and audio flicker of the fluorescent light bulb is a full screen flash I can't tune out. So much of it feels like hardwired into representation of over sensory sensitivity. It's a fascinating film.
And also, like, into the set design, like, things feel like dirty and unpleasant, but also like, oh, this is how normal people do the things, right?
So someone has served up an unfamiliar food to me, and it's doing something that I don't understand what's happening with this unfamiliar food, and everyone else seems to think that it's very normal, that it's oozing liquid. That's just fine, and I'm not supposed to be weirded out that I don't know what's happening with the food. There's about 2/3 of this film I think you could just, like, you cut a couple of scenes out here and there, and show this to parents going, here's how to understand what your autistic kid's going through. I would maybe, cut, there's some stuff I would cut out of it to make that work. But I think you could make a cut of this film that would be a very effective, this is what your autistic kid is experiencing experience.
Also, like, from the point of view of someone who's, like, a massive Twin Peaks fan, so look at Eraserhead and go, it feels like there is a lot of the same symbology and, like, visual language, whether or not it means the same things in different contexts. But, like, I was getting elements of the arm from Twin Peaks: The Return, Obviously we got the zigzag pattern of the floor in the apartment lobby.
The interplay between light and darkness, and electricity's role in
Electricity again, as you mentioned. Just like the way people dress, the awkwardness of certain scenes.
The way social interactions are written is very, very Twin Peaks-esque.
Yeah.
It is that whole... The text of the conversation is happening, but something feels stilted because there's something else not being said that is a little indecipherable about it. And making that indecipherable subtext felt by a broader audience. Yeah, very interesting film. We had quite a lot to say about it as we walked home from it, trying to dissect thoughts about it.
Yeah. Glad I watched it. Looking forward to the rest of this Lynch season that apparently like a whole chain of cinemas are showing. So
yeah,
a chance for more people to see other Lynch films, because I think I've only seen June, Eraserhead, Inland Empire, and the one I keep forgetting the name of, Mulholland Drive.
Yeah. And I have a work project that's giving me an excuse to go see Lynch stuff, and for that to be work appropriate, so I'm gonna soak in some Lynch.
Have you watched anything else?
That's about it for me. What about you?
I watched one other thing.
Yeah?
I watched a new series on YouTube called Abletop.
I could tell from the voice where you were going.
This is I think you should say what this is.
This is a project that I've been working on for a little while with Carrie Waterton, who I found because she was doing, well, I've known her for a while, but she was doing some stuff to do with board game accessibility, and that got me thinking about board game accessibility and going, you know what, Carrie's lovely. I want an excuse to work with Carrie on something. So Abletop is a series of 6 roughly hour-long videos that'll be going up over the next 6 weeks. Each hour-long video focusing on a different aspect of board game accessibility. So the first one was about rulebook accessibility and accessible teaching of board games. We've got one coming up about vision accessibility, one about communication accessibility, one about motor accessibility, cognitive accessibility. We've got basically 6 hours of, do you want to get into a deep dive of the basics of board game accessibility for different demographics of accessibility need? Here's like a little 6-week masterclass we're doing on the topic.
Yeah. Now, you pre-recorded all of these, so I knew that this was happening in the background. I was like, oh, and you'd come down and tell me about the things that you talked about, and be like, oh, when's this out? And you kept being like, it's in the back end, you can watch it if you want. I'm like, no, I'm going to wait.
Yeah, this has been going for a while. Like, I think we recorded the first one in, like, December?
Yeah, something like that.
In theory, we were recording one a week, but, like, also the holidays happened, and also we didn't want to stress ourselves over it. Yeah. It was when we could get it done, and you know, we didn't put it out until the whole thing was recorded and we knew it was good.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm glad to see it out now. I'm excited to see the rest of the episodes. Like, even someone who isn't a board game designer, like just somebody who loves board games, just like sat down and watched it, and I'm very much enjoying it, and I'm looking forward to more, to the rest.
Yeah.
And you've already had some lovely words from lovely people in the industry already. So
there's some people in the board game space whose work I very much admire who have said very nice things about it. And I'm like, hooray, we did okay.
Yeah, you did.
We did good. Yeah. And look, I'm glad we did 6 of them. I think by the time we were recording the 6, like, we got better week by week. This is the first time we've ever worked on a thing together.
Yeah.
If the first one was well received, I'm like, yeah, we got this.
Oh, yeah.
It's just up from here.
Woohoo.
So yeah, there's every Wednesday at 5 p.m. UK for the next, like, 5 weeks, we'll have Abletop episodes
and that's
going
up on your YouTube channel, and also transcripts are available on your website?
access-ability.uk. You can read the transcripts of the episodes up there. Also in the video description there is a little quick summary of, if you just want to know, like, what are the bullet point takeaways from the episode, so that, like, you don't have to take notes. You've just got, like, the notes there for you.
Yeah.
Of the big things we came away with.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. I'm very proud of
You
that.
should be. It's very good, and I look forward to the rest of them.
Ooh. What about you? You watched anything else?
That's it. That's all I watched.
Well then, time for this.
Inside the boardroom of Supremacy Software.
Hi.
Hi.
So, we've been caught out.
Again?
Yeah.
Oh man,
yeah.
I'm gonna have to pay to scrub the internet of those pictures again, aren't I?
Oh no, it's not that. It's not
Oh.
that. At least.
Oh, okay,
so
thank God.
not today. At least.
Right. Yeah.
So, we fired a bunch of the artists recently.
Yeah.
Because we could just use AI to make art instead.
I love using it instead of people.
And like I looked over the AI art, and I was like, that looks great. That looks
Yeah.
fine to me.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an artist, but I know what I like.
Yeah, and I like not having to pay for art.
Yeah.
Yeah. So apparently, it was there were some problems with the AI art.
But you checked it over.
I at a glance, nothing looked wrong to me.
Right.
Apparently, the festive zombie did have 6 fingers on one hand.
Well, I mean, surely you can just explain that because they're a zombie,
Yeah,
right?
well, look, I tried. I put out a press release. I said, zombies grow an extra finger when they're infected.
Yeah.
And apparently that was not a convincing argument.
Well, they just don't know the deep lore of the game yet. They will.
Yeah.
They will regret their words and deeds.
Hey, look, I've got people downstairs making a patch so that it'll say that that's why they got 6
We
fingers.
still have people downstairs. Wow.
Well, apparently so, but the problem is we're going to have to get the character model changed so that the character model has 6 fingers on
Right,
it
yeah,
to match the art. And at that point, we're paying an artist to make art again at that point, which is what we were trying to avoid in the first place. And this is a problem. The problem's not that we've done AI art and it had problems.
Right.
It's we're going to have to spend money to make it look like we didn't avoid spending money. And I don't know how to get around that.
But overall, are we up or down?
I think we're slightly down.
God damn it.
Right. This is not what AI was supposed to be.
AI, you are not a fucking genius.
No, you are not.
Okay, thank you all for coming today, gentlemen. I was we wanted to get a sort of an understanding of just how you felt about different aspects of computer games. So, we have a male protagonist,
Oh, yeah.
a large burly man
Oh, yes.
with a very, very big gun.
Oh, yeah.
And he'll be shooting a lot of people.
Oh, yes.
Yep. He'll maybe he'll maybe be tanned. Well, just tanned. Oh, okay. Well, white is extremely white. Extremely white. There will be a female character in the game, and she'll be like a major part of the plot.
Oh, boo.
She'll have very skimpy clothing. Okay, and his boss will be a trans woman.
Woke.
Well, we don't. I guess we don't have to explicitly say that she's a trans woman. Who of color.
Oh, boo, woke.
Okay, white boss then there as well. I guess.
Yes.
I guess we have established what you people want. So let's make the opposite of that. Fuck you all. Do you know what I want to see more?
What do you want to see more of?
Social justice warriors.
Social justice warriors.
Yeah.
Right, Larry. How you doing?
Oh, still not quite up to snuff, mate.
Oh.
You doing all right?
Oh, sorry to hear. I'm doing all right. I was having a grumble about a thing a little earlier. Accessibility, we talk about it a lot. It's good that there are requirements in place that businesses and things be accessible in certain ways and stuff like that. But there's been a thing that's like been cropping up more and more frequently recently, or at least I've seen more people talking about, which is accessibility accommodations for things like buildings or services that are not there all the time. Where places will say, "Oh, we are an accessible venue," and what they mean by that is if you call ahead and you get in touch with someone and someone gets your message and remembers, we can go and put out a ramp exactly for the minute you want to go up the steps to get in, and then you'll have to find a member of staff to put the ramp out again when you're leaving.
Which I'm sure will give you all the confidence in the world, in the event of, like, a fire or something.
Well, exactly. And we only have the one ramp, so, like, if you want to also, like, go from where you've had your dinner to, like, go to the toilet, and there's a step there, we're going to have to go get the ramp again and move the ramp over there so that you can get to there.
And we'll probably, huff and moan the whole time.
Exactly. And even if they don't huff and moan, you're going to end up feeling... It's going to be hard not to feel like an inconvenience for having to go, can you do the thing again for me?
Yeah, and especially if you're, waiting by a thing, people are probably going to be staring, because you know what people are like.
In cases like, the one where it's like, oh, we put the ramp out and it's just for the one set of steps and that's the only place where that ramp needs to be. Yeah. Why not just leave it there until it's time for that person to...
just get a permanent ramp.
Well, exactly. Like, people who can walk up a ramp. Yeah. People who use a wheelchair cannot use a wheelchair up the stairs so easily. The thing that's the bit where this gets more frustrating to me is I've been seeing businesses who advertise themselves as step-free when this is their situation. It's like, oh, you advertise yourself as a step-free business. No, you are a business with steps that, like, okay, I get there and I'll find out there's steps. There's no, like, mechanism for me to alert you, hello, I'm outside, can you come put a ramp down?
There's a couple of wheelchair users that I follow on TikTok who talk about, like, their experiences of step-free venues. I think one of the worst examples was, I believe it was like a museum. Yeah. And they'd gone and they'd been told it was all step-free access. Oh. What they meant was it's all step-free access once you've got into the building, which is up some steps, and then up a flight of stairs.
Yes.
But there's no way to get up there that is step free. But once you're up there, you can roll around all day. Except that there is another step to get to the toilets.
Well, you've got that, and you've got on the other end the classic, it's step-free access. Well, no, not by, like, the normal person entrance. If you go around the back past where the bins are, and go through, like, the service entrance and a scary, rickety service elevator, well, in that regard, it's step-free.
Well, yeah.
It's not a place where we send any other customers.
Legally speaking, it's
step-free. Speaking, you will be able to get in without steps.
Yeah.
You
will be horrified and terrified the whole way, but
it's frustrating. It's one of those people I've spoken to or heard from, who are wheelchair users. Generally, their take on this seems to be, I would just rather you were honest about what your step situation is. Like, tell me, don't advertise yourself as step-free if, like, you're going to have to move a ramp every time I've got to get somewhere. Just say up front, there are steps, we have a ramp, it's a decent enough ramp, but you will need
We have a portable ramp, it's made of this material, it is suitable for up to this weight class.
We do, is there or is there not a way to alert us when you arrive, or do you need to let us know in advance?
Yeah.
But we do that, just so that, like, if there's going to be a degree of I'm relying on you to help me get around this venue, you at least fucking know about it in advance.
Yeah, and can make your purchasing decisions of going to that place, on true information.
Exactly.
Like, if you're going to tell people that there's step-free access, and then a party of 6 turn up, all in wheelchairs, and they actually, we can really only accommodate one wheelchair user at a time because of the facilities we have here. Ultimately, what you're creating there is, a lot of people, fire risk, hazards, hazards to their life. And, I'm willing to bet in a lot of these places, your fire plan for getting wheelchair users out is leave them in a stairwell to burn.
I mean, I've just thought of one more that really frustrated me seeing was a woman who was she's a wheelchair user and she was planning her wedding and trying to find like wedding venues and was told step-free venue. Gets there and it is one of these ramp must be moved place to place to place to get anywhere. And she says, I called up and asked if you were step-free and you said yes. And their response, and this fucking frustrates me, was Well, we didn't know it was you, the bride, that would be a wheelchair user. Usually when that's asked, it just means that, like, there's one great-grandmother, and, like, she won't mind if we just park her in a corner somewhere.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
we didn't think you meant, like, using the whole venue
Certainly
like
you didn't
everyone
think
else.
an important person was going to need it.
Yeah, no.
It's
we thought-
really the subtext
thought
that
it was
they're going
thought
for
it was
there.
someone we could just sort of pop in a corner and not treat their experience as important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bastards. yeah.
Bastards indeed.
Depends on me.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah. Good on, mate. Good
Good
on.
luck.
Right, I think I'm going to have a hot lemon, mate.
Oh, sounds like a plan.
Yeah. So, Laura,
Yes?
tell us where we can find your stuffs.
My stuff's at Laura K. Buzz pretty much everywhere on the internet. Laura K. Buzz on YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, Patreon, that's the one that pays the bills, Blue Sky. Just search Laura K. Buzz, you'll find all the things. Abletop's the big one at the moment. Go check out Abletop. That'll be going up every week. We're approaching the end of the Wandering Sun watch-along on YouTube, where I will each episode watch a 20-minute episode of the anime that made me trans, and then talk for a good hour plus about that one 20-minute episode and my thoughts on it. So we've got, I think, 2 episodes of that left to go. We're almost done. Episode 10 kind of broke me. It really solidified what that show did and did not get right for me in a lot of ways. And there's a new Control Alt Access that'll be up by the time you hear this. This is Laura K. Buzz. You'll find all the stuff I'm doing.
Yeah.
What about you? Where are you out on the internet?
Well, I have a link tree. It's linktree.ee/Janiac, JANEIAC. You can find me on patreon.com/StoneToMonkeyRadio. As little as $1 a month helps get all the things done and is very much appreciated in this very difficult time. Laura, darling,
Yes?
will you sing us out, please?
Until next time, be a stranger.